I'm going to show you what happens at every single one of these intermediate cycle lows. So first off, keep in mind that since the financial crisis, the world changed. At that point, the rules no longer apply to the banks, and you have to take everything with a grain of salt in the metals sector. The banks control this sector. This is a cash cow for them. Uh, you know, they manufacture a bottom when they're ready for the bottom. So, that's one thing you have to always keep that in mind and try not to get frustrated. But unfortunately, this is what happens to the vast majority of people, and I watch it at every single intermediate bottom. We'll get this long period here of whipsawing back and forth, and and in my opinion, the banks this is a manufactured uh, phase where the banks take money from both bulls and bears alike. They just whipsaw the market back and forth, and then at the end you'll get some kind of uh, usually some kind of uh, bloodbath phase, which is a complete washout that panics most retail traders and hedge funds, and they end up selling at the bottom. So this is what I've seen happen over and over for 11 years now to every one of these bottoms. We get into this whipsawing phase. Subscribers start to become frustrated. I'll see a lot of people start, will cancel their subscription, or the comments will become very aggressive and abusive. And then we get the bloodbath phase. And in this case, here was the bloodbath phase right here. Now in gold, this was pretty severe. In the miners, it didn't amount to much of anything. But traders that can't control their emotions, um, you know, they sell during this bloodbath phase because they can't envision a scenario where the market can turn and go the other way. And usually this is, again, this is where a lot of the dumb money traders are selling here. This is where the subscribers are canceling their subscription. I've seen it happen at every single intermediate cycle low over the last 11 years, and then they miss the turn. And at this point, I'm pretty sure we've got our bottom. The bloodbath phase, like I said, while it was pretty damaging in gold, didn't really do much of anything in the miners. And even though we didn't lose hardly anything in the miners, I watched as these dumb money traders literally were losing their mind. Um, all I got was comments that gold would never turn around, it was never going to go up. And so they end up doing what they always do at every one of these intermediate bottoms. They can't take the contrarian trade. They can't control their emotions, and so they miss the rally. They miss the turn, and now um, the, we're overbought. So they're still leery. They're still afraid that this can turn back around, and so they're not ready to get in yet. And notice the stop is getting further and further away. Your stop goes right here underneath the cycle low. So any other stop somewhere in the middle is probably just guaranteed to knock you out for a loss, even though you have the correct trade on. The odds are pretty high at this point that we've got an intermediate bottom. I've noted before that these intermediate rallies usually last somewhere between 8 to 10 weeks, and gold will gain anywhere from 10 to 15% during an intermediate rally. The miners can do 3 or 4 times that. So most of these, dumb money traders, they sold here at the bottom. They panicked, even though there really was no need to panic. This was one of the mildest corrections in miners into an intermediate cycle low that we've seen in years. But these traders that can't control their emotion, they ended up selling down here, and now they're still afraid to buy because they're not sure this is not just a fake out like we've had I mean, we've had lots of them. Here was a fake out, here was a fake out, here was a fake out. They're convinced that this is just another fake out, and so they're not ready to buy yet, and they're letting their stop get further and further away. And then, at some point here, probably by the middle of next week, they will become convinced that this is a bottom. But at that point, price is going to be overbought, and then they won't want to buy into overbought conditions. So they'll wait for a pullback. And realistically, even on one down day, it's not going to look like a pullback. It's going to look like the market's rolling over. So they can say they're going to wait for a pullback, but I guarantee most people will not pull the trigger during a pullback. So this is how these, dumb money traders, um, the banks frustrate them, knock them out here. The bloodbath phase panics them, and they sell in the bottom. And then they this trains them to not be able to buy when the turn has come, and it's time to make money. If you've weathered all of this, and for God's sake, you might as well stay in for the good time and make the money. But most people just can't do that. They get knocked out here, or they get knocked out during the bloodbath phase, or they cancel their subscription, and then they miss the good times. And so most people, uh, you know, did not get in at the bottom here. They're on the sidelines. The stop is getting further and further away. They're going to miss this first daily cycle, which tends to be the best. The best gains occur during the first daily cycle out of an intermediate bottom.